Since childhood, Camila knew her life would not be easy. Raised in a humble neighborhood, she watched her mother work tirelessly to put food on the table. While other children played, she was fascinated by the buildings around her, seeing them as monuments built by human strength. One day, "I want to build something like that," she whispered to herself, not knowing how she would make it happen. The public school she attended offered few opportunities, but Camila compensated with dedication. She spent hours studying math and physics, ignoring classmates who said engineering was not for women. After finishing high school, she earned a partial scholarship to a prestigious university. The next challenge was even bigger, balancing studies and work to pay for tuition and survive. For 4 years, she lived between textbooks and exhausting shifts as a waitress. The fatigue was constant, but her determination was greater. "If I give up now, I go back to the same starting point," she told herself in the toughest moments. And she didn't give up. She graduated with honors, impressing professors and colleagues, and soon landed a job at a major construction company. Little did she know, her greatest challenge was yet to come. Camila started at the construction company as an assistant, and from the very first day, she felt the weight of being the only woman on the team. Senior engineers ignored her in meetings, and when she spoke, she was met with condescending looks. "Good luck, little girl," they said with fake smiles, as if her future was already doomed. But she refused to be intimidated. She absorbed every piece of information and worked twice as hard to prove her worth. Months passed, and her confidence became undeniable. When one of the senior engineers made a structural miscalculation, it was Camila who caught the mistake and corrected it before it became a disaster. But instead of receiving recognition, she got a warning: "Don't correct your superiors in public." That was the moment she realized that being good wasn't enough. She had to be excellent, and even then, she would still be a target. After 3 years of effort, she finally received her first real chance. The board needed a lead engineer for a major commercial complex project. To everyone's surprise, her name was recommended. However, the decision was not well received by her colleagues. Fake smiles hid resentment, and what seemed like an achievement would soon become a brutal test. At first, everything seemed to be going well. Camila led the team with confidence, reviewing every detail of the construction. But small issues started to arise. Incorrect materials were delivered, measurements didn't match, and important documents disappeared. She sensed something was wrong, but she had no proof. Then the final blow came. A critical error appeared in the structure of one of the buildings under construction. The report stated that the calculations were incorrect, and her signature was on it. "This is a mistake," she said, feeling her blood turn cold. She checked her files, tried to recall the details, but the correct documents had vanished. Everything pointed to her. That afternoon, she was called into an emergency meeting. The director, impatient, slid a paper across the table. "We can't tolerate this kind of mistake. You're fired." No chance to explain. No defense. When she left the room, she felt the relieved stares of her colleagues. They had won. She had been destroyed. News of her dismissal spread quickly, and soon Camila realized the damage. No company wanted to hire her, and the few interviews she managed to get ended with suspicious looks. An engineer who nearly collapsed a building? That was how she was labeled. Her once promising name was now synonymous with incompetence. Desperation hit hard. For months, she spent her savings on failed attempts to restore her reputation. She thought about giving up. Maybe engineering really wasn't for her. But every time she remembered the years of struggle, the hunger she endured to pay for college, Something inside her screamed that her story wouldn't end like this. Sitting in her small rented apartment, jobless and with no prospects, she had one certainty. If no one would hire her, she would create her own path. If no one gives me a project to lead, then I'll build something myself. It was in that lowest moment that the idea of starting her own company was born. But starting a company required money, and money was something she didn't have. In the following days, she went from bank to bank, presenting her business plan. The answers were always the same. A construction company led by a woman? That won't work. Some didn't even look at her before rejecting the request. Camila felt anger growing inside her. If she were a man, she would have gotten the investment with far less effort. But instead of letting frustration consume her, she used it as fuel. After countless refusals, a small local investor gave her a chance. "I don't know if I believe in your idea," he said, "but I believe in your will to succeed." The money wasn't much, but it was enough to start. Camila rented a small office and hired 2 assistants. The first project she got was a minor renovation, the kind of job big companies rejected. But for her, it was the first brick in building something much greater. The first project Camila took on seemed simple, renovating a small commercial building. But without the infrastructure of a large company, every obstacle felt twice as hard. She had to negotiate with suppliers, review contracts, and supervise the work herself. The workers looked at her with doubt, some even refusing to follow her instructions. "Engineering isn't for people like you," one of them muttered. But Camila didn't back down. She started arriving before everyone else and leaving after the last worker had gone home. She learned the workers' language, understood the timelines, and adjusted her methods to be more efficient. Little by little, they realized she wasn't just any boss. She not only understood calculations, but was also willing to get her hands dirty when necessary. Respect wasn't given to her. It was earned, one brick at a time. Despite all the challenges, Camila completed the project ahead of schedule and with no structural issues. The client was impressed and recommended her to others. She started getting more small projects, but she knew it wasn't enough. If she wanted to compete with the big names in the industry, she had to grow, and fast. Months passed, and Camila's small construction firm began to stand out. Her projects were completed efficiently, and her reputation improved. Companies that once ignored her now requested quotes. But success never goes unnoticed, especially by those who once tried to bring her down. Her former colleagues from the company that sabotaged her started noticing her name circulating again. They felt threatened. They knew she was capable, and now she had something even more dangerous: credibility. So, they resorted to an old trick, spreading rumors that Camila was unreliable and that her projects had hidden issues. Their goal was clear: to destroy her reputation before she became a real competitor. But this time Camila was prepared. Instead of wasting time defending herself with words, she let her work do the talking. She won her biggest project yet, an innovative residential complex built with more sustainable and cost-effective techniques than any of her competitors. The media took notice, and suddenly, Camila wasn't just a small business owner. She was a rising force in the industry. Camila's growing success brought an unexpected visitor to her office one day, a former colleague from the company that fired her. He walked in with an envelope in his hands. "I know what they did to you," he said, placing the papers on her desk. The documents were proof of what she had always suspected. She had been set up. With undeniable evidence in her hands, Camila didn't hesitate. She filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against her former company, demanding financial compensation and a public retraction. The case exploded in the media. The company tried to deny it, but the evidence was irrefutable. The executives responsible for the sabotage were fired, and the company's reputation plummeted. While her old rivals crumbled, Camila's name rose higher. The industry no longer saw her as an outsider trying to prove herself. Now, she was a symbol of resilience and excellence, a woman who had survived an industry that tried to erase her. And the best was yet to come. With her reputation restored, Camila's company skyrocketed. Investors who once laughed at her now begged for meetings. She began leading international projects and expanding her firm to multiple cities. For the first time in her life, she no longer had to worry about money. Success brought even greater opportunities. Camila was invited to speak at industry conferences, where she encouraged other women to pursue careers in construction. Her story became an inspiration, proving that persistence and skill could overcome any barrier. But for Camila, her greatest victory wasn't financial. It was knowing that she had won on her own terms. From a tiny office and a handful of workers to millions in the bank, Camila became a powerful name in the industry. But despite everything she had achieved, she never forgot where she came from. And now it was time to give back. With her company well established, Camila realized she wanted more than just success. She wanted to change the industry. She created training programs to help women enter the construction field. She gave lectures, launched courses, and opened doors for those who, like her, had to fight against prejudice. The same engineers who once dismissed her now called her a visionary. The woman who had been sabotaged, humiliated, and discarded had become the leader of a new era in construction. Her name, once attached to scandal, now stood for resilience, intelligence, and success. Looking back, Camila saw every closed door as part of her journey. The difference now was that she no longer needed to knock. She built her own doors.